Hey everyone, welcome back to Locked In. We want to start our show by saying we really appreciate the good number of subscribers that we picked up in just the past week or so. Quite a bit of you have been helping us, to push on toward 500 subscribers. If you will, tell your friends, other people, that we got a host of people who are watching this channel who've yet to subscribe. If you will, hit the subscribe button, help us out. We enjoy talking ball with you, whether we agree with you or disagree with you. It's always fun. We enjoy hearing what people have to say. And it's also been, interesting having, some interest from various fan bases that, have been cropping up. One recently, here close to home, Chance is representative of the tribe, I would say, was Georgia Bulldogs. We've been getting a lot of views from the Atlanta and Athens area. As we've had a couple Georgia videos lately, and tonight, we want to turn back to that. Maybe this one's maybe Caston and I more toward the 24 season than some of our other videos have done, which have been more, I guess, in retrospect. And this one, I guess, is too. Is that we're going to look at a game from 2023, the SEC championship. But what our focus really is on here is on the Georgia quarterback Carson Beck, and our argument is that that he puts up huge numbers. He's kind of a low key guy. He's not, he doesn't seem to be much of a screamer and a shouter, but nevertheless, I mean, he is over the past year he's become easily one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And when you are a quarterback at Georgia, you've got and you're as good as Carson Beck is, you've got a really an inside track to at least being a Heisman Trophy finalist, and that would be an interesting thing to see. For the dogs. And I think that's a conversation that's going to be starting up as this season rolls. So, Chance, what are we going to be looking at here tonight?
Yeah, tonight we're going to be looking at what I expect to be Heisman finalist Carson Beck, and he can do a lot. He's very versatile. I think one thing that makes him stand out, though, is his ability to go through a progression, decide what is the best route to take through that, because he can extend the plays on his feet. He can also run the ball pretty well. He doesn't really run consistently, just when he has to. And, I really like that because he's always looking to go downfield with the ball. But you get in situations like you do against Alabama where, Brock Bowers is hurt and Ladd is hurt, and, you got to make things happen. But I mean, at the same time, it's like you look at that. So we've watched Michigan film all year. Does that right there, that sideline pass to Ladd McConkey right there, that looks exactly like what J.J. McCarthy does at least once a game. So, I mean, one thing talking about with the extending plays with his legs or being able to run the ball, it gets them linebackers and them safeties rushing down, because there is that possibility he can run. And then, there's that ability to extend plays and throw on the run. And you see that by him just, I mean, absolutely throwing a dart on that sideline to Ladd McConkey. And a lot can be said for that play just alone.
Yeah, and and one of the things too that you see here, so much of college ball is played from the shotgun, and and it seems like everything now is maybe not a derivative of, but it's very much influenced by the air raid. But if you look at that first play with him under center, that's something I think that's going to really. I mean, it shows well in college. It's also going to be something I think the NFL teams will be interested in. That's a great play action fake. I mean, he really sells that fake. Gets good arm extension and pulls those linebackers, to open that window up as much as he can. Now they had run this action, with Bowers there crossing the formation. They'd thrown the ball to him, and they've done that, with run action a lot, run like a split zone kind of play, or I guess really more like a little counter with Bowers coming across. But what ends up happening right here is when you send him into the flat, you first of all you got this good play action fake. Obviously, the linebackers have to respect that the running back may take the ball and cut back underneath. So, I mean, look how close they are at this point. They're on the verge of the inside linebackers are on the verge of being 2 yards from the line of scrimmage. Going to be awful hard to get out and affect the pass or to get out even and affect the rollout when he makes it here. So, as we go on through, you've got a huge threat in Bowers, who's going to be coming up, and basically just like running like a little shoot route off of this or flat route off of the split action, pulls up the defender, leaves the receiver on a comeback wide open. And that's another thing, I think you look for is like that comeback. I mean, if you can hit that, 12-yard comeback, yeah, you're really gonna be all right.
Yeah, and to be able to also throw it on the run where he does, so that's just something you don't see a lot. Um, Going into this next play, I know that he didn't complete this pass, but he had the awareness to get out of the pocket. And I mean, that ball, while it is a little underthrown, he's getting rushed. And I mean, that is in the spot it needs to be. He sees a lad coming back to the ball, say, you have your safety right here in your corner right here. This is the spot you're throwing the ball. I mean, it ends
Yeah.
up there. So, I mean, you're wanting to take a shot, and I know knowing the Alabama game, I mean, their DBs were on every wide receiver, and I mean it was hands on, man's on, and it was brutal pretty much all game. There was not much space and separation at all for any of them boys. And I know Carson Beck had a hard time dealing with that. But he tried to make stuff happen, and it usually didn't work out for him. But he really did try, and he put his receivers in the best possible situation where they could succeed, and kind of gave them more instead of a 50-50, with them not creating separation, put them in a spot where it's more 60-40.
And he does a good job down there in the end zone of getting away because I mean they really put the fire to him right here, especially this edge rusher.
Yeah, no,
He
no, no,
shows
yeah,
he
yeah,
shows he shows some good. I
definitely.
mean that whole left side of the offensive line just kind of collapses there. And so he shows good awareness. I mean, that's one of those things that he knows he can feel the pressure, and he's looking downfield the entire time because that's one of the things that we keep going back to a lot. I know we've criticized some quarterbacks about it. And with Georgia, you get the same indicator that you have with Alabama. They got that white stripe down the center of their helmet, and you can watch either from behind. You can see that stripe moving. You can watch a face mask move. Like if you get him back, roll it back to where he first takes the ball, even as the whole defensive line seems to be coming in on him to his left. He's still looking. Look, watch his face mask move. Moves all the way across the field, feels the pressure, escapes, runs a flat line like what we've talked about with so many of your better quarterbacks. And he literally checks the whole field. And that's one of the things that I think is tough for him in this game. It is not like that he was panicking. I mean, he was trying with everything in him to make the best throw that he possibly could make. But Alabama's defensive backfield, they were on them, like you say. And I know that one of the things that you've obviously got to mention, you and your Georgia fans are, going to mention, Bowers and McConkey were there, but they were not themselves. Now they did make plays, they did help out, but you could tell, especially by the time they reached, halftime and beyond, that they were banged up and they've been banged up all year. And so that puts a lot more pressure on him to have to try to make something happen. But nevertheless, I mean, he reads the field and he's going to make a good decision. He
Yeah.
can use his feet. He would prefer to throw it, but I think that there's a lot that he's got going on, and I'm interested to see, what can happen with him, with after he's going to have some time to work with these receivers. Because the good thing is, and that's something you'd mentioned before about the while this game may not have gone the way that Georgia wanted it to, he got work with a lot of people that he otherwise probably would not have targeted because of the health situation of Bowers and McConkey. And I think that that's going to pay dividends next year because, you've had this whole year to, really at times look rough with them. But you're going to have a winter, and you're going to have the whole spring try to get things down pat. And I guarantee you they're going to look pretty good, come August, September.
Especially with all the new wide receiver transfers and recruits. But I mean, also
Yeah.
one thing you saw in this game was just play calling not being able to set him up for success because you
Yeah.
start with him looking this way, going through his progression 1, 2 with the deep that are already passed. Then he goes 3 and 4, and then by the time that rush gets there, he has to turn all the way back around the field while he's already looking this way. His checkdown's on the other side of the field. So, when he's at
Hmm.
4, it's not like he can just turn and throw. He's got somebody in his face right here. That's the guy that gets off. It'd be hard to throw right over him to his check down. So that ultimately forces him to roll out the opposite way of his check down. So I mean, you know, put yourself in a better situation here, at least
Yeah.
by play calling. But I mean, heck of a play by McConkey to even get close to that ball. Um, Moving on, one of the big things about him I like is his ability to throw over the middle. Now, usually, it's pretty good, but you got Brock Bowers going up the seam here. And I mean, to be fair, pre-snap read, that looks like it'd be all right. Like that is where the space is right here, and that's where he's going. But you'll see it. It's ultimately going to end up in man coverage with Caleb Downs on him. And, he gets hands on, man's on. I don't know, uh, or I don't really care either if you want to say this is a flag, pass interference, holding. They're physical. Both of them get their hands on. And the thing with Carson Beck is, you're going to go to Brock Bowers a lot. It's Brock Bowers. If you're the quarterback, you're going to him. You're going to give him a 50-50 ball. Why, when you need it, especially? Why would you do that? Well, this guy is known as the greatest receiver in college football, if not one of the greatest, and probably going to be the highest tight end picked in the draft. So, I mean, this guy's a generational talent. Feed him the ball. And that's what Carson Beck tries to do, and he's done it all year. And usually it works out for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he has the right idea. Pre-snap, needs the yardage right here, and you see hands on, man's on, going into it right here. Caleb Downs gets his hands on him, and I guess you could say if you throw it right here, just over Caleb. I mean, that's still a dangerous throw if it's a tip, whatever. You have that safety right there. But I mean, that's where you got to throw it. You got to throw it back shoulder over Caleb, and give him a chance. Uh, and he throws it, and it ends up being kind of back shoulder. It ends up being right here. So I mean, it's pretty much a good ball. It's just they're so physical right here, and they're so congested. It's not going to work out. At least most of the
Yeah.
time, it's hard to make a play on that.
But I
So I
just like you
mean,
say, you're gonna force that ball to him right there because I mean, just look at it. That's your best option. I mean,
yeah,
it honestly is.
you look look at his helmet when he goes through his reads. He goes 1-2, and that's what he throws. He'll look at the bottom of your screen. You'll see Dylan Bell, and he'll go 1, and he sees that safety over top with his
Mhm.
hips turned, rolling over top, and he knows it's a vertical route. And you obviously the man coverage, cover 2 man, and he's got man on, and he's got over top help. So I mean, he's not going to go there. He sees that safety just staring him down. Uh, so I mean, not going there, because that's what you want. You want your vertical one on one, and he looks right, and that's technically a vertical one on one. That's a one on one vertical route, and that's what they wanted out of this play, at least the play call. And I mean, you look right, and I mean, you ain't got anything here or here, and you don't have a check down. There is no check down anywhere near the line of scrimmage. So
That goes
you're
back to your questions about play calling.
Yeah, so I mean, you're
They're
pushing
not helping him out.
vertical. You get your best chance right here with the man, one on your man, and it's Brock Bowers, albeit two. So I mean, you got the best opportunity to exceed throwing that ball. There's not much else to be said about that.
There
Play
was
calling.
that a third was that a third down play?
It was 3rd and 13.
Yeah.
So I
So you
mean,
can't fault him. He's trying to get it. I mean, that's his best. That's probably his highest percentage. So
yeah,
yeah,
because I mean, you're looking for your vertical push. I mean, it's 3rd and 13. You got to get vertical,
yeah,
and they want their one on one. That's what Georgia does. They try to get their one on one, and it just didn't work out there. Um,
yeah.
I mean, hey, try it. It's Brock
Mm-hmm.
Bowers. Here you'll see him run man like they do all game pretty much, but this time you see him strike over the middle, and that's one thing he is very good at. It's a very tight window here. Let me see if I can freeze frame it. Yeah. So you have your wide receiver right here. The ball goes up and over, and he throws it on a line. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a play later in the video and where he throws it 40 yards, and it doesn't really leave the ground that much. So I mean, this guy's more of a gunslinger instead of a deep ball thrower. I mean, he throws it in between 1, 2, 3 Alabama players, and that's the right shot to hit. I think it's just a dig across the middle, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean I mean, that's right. I mean, how do you read this any better? So you're not getting a
Like,
lot of
man,
separation in space. You have your guy over top, and he just gets a little too far over top, and your guy underneath doesn't really see him. He's squared on, playing more with this route. So I mean, that's your throw, and he makes it right across the middle. See, and honestly, like a lot of them quarterbacks that we've watched, they hate throwing across the middle. So I like that.
yeah.
Um, we have talked about the throwing to the far side of the field. Now, this is the short side of the field, but this isn't even a real true read or progression read, I guess you'd say. This is I'm motion. I see them roll. And that's the way Alabama plays man with their roll. You'll see one drop and one go over. And that's that man indicator. So he knows he has one on one onto the boundary side of the field. So he also knows that it's probably a choice route for Dylan Bell, if we're being honest. He can go vertical or do a comeback, just depending on what that corner does. But you'll see he gets that one on one. First and 10, he automatically flips his hips and gets ready to throw. And it's that comeback right there, that little hitch. And he is wide open just for a little few yards burst play.
And one of the things too with that one is Bell's going to be there. I mean, Bell's probably going to be number one. I mean, at least right now, unless there's the transfers have some, I guess, change the lineup a bit. He's a good receiver. And if you watch what he does right there, the thing that makes this work, because I agree with you 100% on this being a choice, because I mean that's just even down to high school, what you're going to typically do is now the thing I'll say that first the high school way is if you have a corner who is pressing the wide receiver, he's probably going to go vertical. So you're going to see the fade. So what happens here that makes me really interested to see how the chemistry that they've got is going to work out. He sells the fade because that's exactly when the Alabama cornerback turns is as soon as Bell goes up the numbers and then breaks outside like you'll do on the fade, he goes ahead and he reads it 100% as a fade. So I mean, he just pretty much just kind of okey dokes him on that and says, okay, here we go. Knows he's going to read fade, knows he's going to turn and run with him down the sideline, stabs his foot, turns around, ball's right there instantly. That's good chemistry. And this clearly was not, that this was not the guy that I think that if you would have asked, Beck early in the years, like, hey, you think you can pull this off, real slick like with Bell? He'd probably say it'd be, somebody like McConkey on the outside, that a guy who he's got a lot more time playing with. But what you see right here is that, I mean, Bell does a good job of fooling a good defensive back, and Beck puts the ball right on him. And I think that's something you're going to see a lot more next year. And if you can run routes like this, you can consistently beat people if they are not really on top of their game.
Yeah, Bell's been one of his most consistent receivers all year whenever they try to target him. And you're right to call that out. He does a really good job pushing vertical to the outside to give that false movement. And then you can see when he stops, he sinks his heels, drops his butt, and you just see that Alabama DB just go forward and not have the momentum to stop there. And he gets a good play and a good 5 yards. And I mean, first and 10, it's always good to be second and 5. It's a good position.
Yeah.
2.5 yards the next two plays and you're golden. It's less than your three should usually be. So now, I know you talked about it earlier, but we see it again. Carson Beck under center, which you don't see a lot, but with his play action motion, especially with how much Georgia runs the ball, especially with their tight ends and the way their line is and the way they shift into top bunch. It's really one thing to point out that in this Georgia offense, you have to be able to go under center and run them play action fakes, and he does it very
Yeah.
well. Because I mean, you just look at all these linebackers just shifting over, and I mean, he didn't even do a really good job faking that, but they still just all shift over, just because
Mm-hmm.
they're so dead set on the way he opens to the run. If he opens his body to the other way, they're not going to do that. But the way he just opens and steps with his footwork,
Yeah.
and the way he's been taught. So I mean, you keep everything the same, everything looks the same, and they're reading that and they've studied that. So, that is one thing to point out about him, the way he runs the offense. And then he looks backside after getting them all drawn that way. And honestly, I think that's a good pass. I mean, that just goes right through Arian's hands. Said it is well covered. I will admit that, because I mean everything was well covered all night. But I mean, you look at that ball right there. It's right there. That's where the ball is.
Mhm.
And I mean that's going to drop right into his hands. And I'm pretty sure it just goes right through him. And that's just sad to see when it's 7-10, and we don't score again until like the end of the second or start of the third. So I mean, yeah, good ball,
Yeah,
good shot,
tough break.
tough break. Said catch the
Yeah,
ball.
you'd like to see him come down with that one.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but I think on that one too, it just I guess one last thing on the play action here. What I really like about it too is like, in addition to working, off of this, this look, they have to honor it, because if you don't, that jet sweep's going to pick up some yardage, and you're in a spot in the field. This is going to make, I mean, at the bare minimum, if you don't honor that could be the thing that puts you down there about the 25-yard line and turns into a chip shot field goal. So I think it's a good call. And I also think though it's hard to fake off of jet action, I believe, unless you're using like, the kind of like the spread option look where, the quarterback's going to dive into the line. So I always think that it always looks a little, I guess maybe this is not the right way to say it, but it always looks a little wonky, I think, whenever you roll off of jet action. Maybe that's just, me, the way I see it. But what really I think is slick about it is it shows you that he's comfortable rolling out here, understanding the way the defense is going to be moving on that backside, and then trying that shot pass across the field, because more often than not, that's going to be open. It's not going to be open against Alabama. It's going to be contested. And I think the other thing is it shows you a good mindset. There's not a single ball that he's going to throw against this team that's going to be used perfectly open. So that's one of the things too that I think that we mentioned a lot of times about lesser and greater quarterbacks is your understanding of what open means. Some people I think would look at this play and they'd say there's really no way. Well, I think the way that Beck looks at it is like it's not going to get much more open than that, judging from what I've been seeing. So he's got the confidence to make that throw. And I think that that's another thing that that makes him stand out from others, and and puts him up at the top of the conversation where quarterbacks are concerned. I mean, it's there are two guys on him, but look at the space there, and I think that's the way that Beck processed it. And he's like this. I got to take this shot, and I mean, honestly, he ought to come down with the ball.
So that guy underneath also has flat feet. And I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
he saw that before he threw it. And he's got that DB trailing, Arian does. So I mean, he's got that wide open. I mean, you even see the
high
ball.
percentage.
The ball is exactly where it needs to be, especially on first 10. Good time to take a shot. But just ends up going through his hands. Say now here's where his legs come in handy because 3rd and 7, you gotta have it. You're down in this game, you're getting close, or closer at least to halftime. You're probably getting two more possessions, if that, before halftime after this. And extend the drive here, and he does it well. He steps
Hmm.
back, he reads, and he says, I have nothing. He feels the pressure collapsing with that guy right beside him right here, and he even sees him. So I mean, he knows I got to go. So I mean, he does what he should, and he takes off, and he has the whole middle lane to just run free, and that's what he does.
Yeah,
And props to him for that, being able to use his legs. Also gets down because I mean, I love to see a quarterback run and truck somebody or fight for them extra yards, but I'd hate to see. I mean, I know people love them, but well, I mean, technically it'd be Vandegrift that would come in, but like at the same time, there's still going to be a drop off, and even if it's not Vandegrift, it's Gunnar Stockton coming in. It's like I don't want either of them over Carson Beck playing in this game. especially with how Alabama's playing. So it's one of those things. It's like take care of your body, especially in this situation. A lot of ball game left to play. So you see his poise, though. I mean, he's very poised. He goes through all of his progression. He feels the pressure, and then he tries to take off, and he just ends up getting sacked here. I left this in because it's one of those things. You see where the pressure comes from with that blitz right here. So he's coming in right here, and there's should probably be some receiver right here in this background that you just see green grass, and that's all you see is green grass, and that's where a receiver should probably be if you want a complete ball right here. Because I mean, he has time and he goes through his progression. There's just nothing there. I mean, we know we talked about his receivers being covered all night, but it's like, what are you supposed to do when there's nothing there? And he tries to extend it, takes off running both hands on the ball as well. Takes off running with both hands on the ball. Way to protect the ball, look downfield. So I mean, everything he does it with a purpose, and it's usually the right purpose, and he does things the right way playing football. Another one of these hitches. So I thought they did a very good job, especially with how they were playing their man so tight to throw these hitches. I know Alabama picked up on it later, but it is one thing to get them hitches out quicker than that DB can turn and collapse down on that receiver. Because I mean, you got maybe a yard and a half of separation. That ball has to be there, and it has to be there fast. So I mean, by the time he turns around, that ball is halfway there. So I mean, the anticipation, especially with it being Marcus Rosemy-Jackson, it's not even Dylan Bell this time. He just has that trust with his players. Hey, I'm gonna get this here by the time you turn around. It's already left. It's halfway there by the time you've turned around. So I mean, I'm trusting you to catch this. So we go on though, and see you got trips left with Brock in motion, and they end up leaving Arian downfield. And I know this ball's a little underthrown, but that's a good ball. So that's outside. That's right on the money. Because I think Arian, it's so high, Arian loses it. You can see him um, on this replay. You can see him kind of just look in the air because the ball goes so high. He's like, I can't see it. And that's just one of those things. It's like that ball is way up here. So, I think that's also another part of why he slowed down and had to turn around because he kind of lost track of it. Because if he keeps running, that ball drops right here and he just catches it with it in front. He gets a few extra yards, if not a touchdown right here. But, it is what it is. Game's over. Outside
And I'll
ball
tell you,
completed.
too, on that last play, the I know and a lot of people do go all the way back. I know a lot of people do, and it's very easy to criticize um, play calling with Georgia because I mean admittedly I'm not a big Georgia fan, but
That was a good play
even
call.
even watching them at times, you're just like, man, what are you thinking? This was a dadgum play, and I everything about this play I really like because Alabama they increasingly tighten their grip on Georgia's passing game as this game goes on. But with this one, I mean, they cause so many problems, and even all the way down to whenever you see, the move that he makes on the outside route, everything about it just I think it unsettles Alabama's defense because whenever you got Bowers bouncing in motion, comes back out, turns this into a trip set, right at the snap, basically, that really puts a lot of stress on the defense to figure out, well, how are we going to handle this? Because everybody's got their, they got their trips calls, and they've got their doubles calls, whatever, and usually you expect motion to come across the field whenever you got this, kind of yo-yo look where he runs back into the formation, then back out into to the formation. Well, you go from, and this is what coordinators like to do with motion. is every single time that that guy moves, it's a different formation. And that may sound, ludicrous, but it is. So he starts out trips, he goes inside, changes into something else, and you have, twins on his backside, and somebody inside is going to have to compensate for Bowers. Well, he bounces right back out. So what you've done is you've gone from trips to new formation and back to trips. That's really asking a lot in the way that your defensive backs and linebackers are having to, position themselves to guard this formation. So then, go ahead and play it for just a couple seconds
Yeah,
as the
I was
routes begin
say,
to develop.
especially when he pushes vertical like he does.
Yep, it turns that into a wheel, and that's something. And if you watch that, it's essentially like, I mean, it almost turns into what people will call a dagger. That number two is going vertical. Bowers number three is coming behind him. Well, what really is screwing this whole thing up is look down here at the bottom, where you got, just ran the quick hitch. This is not good if you're a defense because what you're thinking now, my thought is they are not going to throw the ball to number one. That's what I would probably tell my defenders is like, we're going to try to gum up this deep pass. And if they throw to number one, then we're going to be aware of that next time. But you're probably not going to throw the ball to the number one receiver. So six is here. He pulls guy off. You got two receivers back to back going vertical down the field. You're already, close to, 5, 6, yards from the original line of scrimmage with both of them. Those defenders are going to have to figure out where you're going because they're not both of them going to run a straight line down the field. So play it just a little bit more.
I would say
So
before I play it, you also got to think they just ran them hitches. So, I mean, they're thinking,
mhm.
they're beating us on them hitches and, they're getting some extra blockers out here. This could be bad. So, you got to be honest to it. But
So Bowers right here is kind of settling, and that's going to pull the guy down. Look at number one. As soon as Bowers starts to settle into that open space, because makes sense. That's what you do. These receivers. I mean, the modern passing game. You find that window, and whenever you see green grass, and my God, there's green grass everywhere around him, he's going to sit square in that spot. So Alabama's number one. He's going to have to come right to him. You got two men down here. I don't even know what the middleman's watching. He's just watching the quarterback, I guess. But number six manages to pull a guy down there with him. Bowers 19 pulls number one to him, and look, we still got the deep threat right here. And the problem is like, well, where is he going to be? Now, what? Go ahead and play him. Watch what he does here to mess with this guy just a little bit.
I think he takes that jab step inside. Yeah.
Yeah, jabs inside on him,
And then
freezes
it
him
it
just
pushes
enough.
him inside. So he was just right here and it pushes him inside just enough where he can cut out and you get that ball right on the outside there.
And it makes all the sense in the world that he's going to run a post right there. I mean, I can understand why that he bites on it, but boy, I mean, one little inside fake, look what it did. I mean, it kept that's 5 yards of separation nearly all the way down there.
Yeah,
That's a
and
good play design. I
big
mean, it really
chunk play,
was.
especially off of what Georgia had been running up
Oh
until
yeah.
that moment. See, they also do a lot of funky sets because I mean, you have split back here with Brock Bowers as one of your
Mhm.
backs, and it's like one of those things. It's like you got to key in on Brock, and that's also why you have um, you see this linebacker cheating over to the right, that Mike cheating over to one side of the ball, right there, so close to that linebacker. And you also see this corner playing so far down when there's nobody outside, uh, especially with that help over top. You're really selling out a lot for Brock Bowers right there.
Yeah.
They bit on that run so hard, and that's the thing. They ran man a lot. It's 2nd and 7. You know, I don't agree with the play call, but you're giving a shot to Brock Bowers in the end zone, and it's 50-50 ball. We talked about it 60-40 since it's Brock. We'll give it to him. But they got some really good DBs, and they're up until this moment. I don't know if there was any pass interference calls. Maybe one. But I mean, the refs were letting them play, and I don't have a problem with it. They were pretty consistent the whole game.
Hmm.
So I mean, let them be physical, let them play. It's whatever. I like a more physical game, but you got to be more physical right here to win it. And that's what a lot of the Georgia players talked about is that the team that wins this game is what they said after. The team that wins this game is always the more physical team. And Georgia got kind of bullied. Their defensive line and the interior did, and that kind of laid the foundation because I mean the rest of the team also got physically dominated, especially the wide receiving group. So they really utilize their motions a lot. Uh, Now I know they're still in that cover two man, like they've been in all game. So I mean, you're not gonna have much space, but it's 3rd and 7. You're gonna need that first down here, especially inching so close to that goal line. So I mean, you got to go for something. And you look at this, and what is open right here? Do you see anything open, Walk?
Oh, it's not very well thought
I
out.
I mean, no. I mean, it looks like you have a flood over to this side because I mean, it honestly looks like Brock is about to be coming inside. You got your drag. I think you have another vertical route, and
Mm,
this guy looks vertical or he's going to cut out. So I mean, you are flooding this side of the field. And I mean, it's man coverage, and they're on these guys. So I mean, there's not much of an option right here. Carson Beck steps into the pocket. He looks for his check down, and what's going on with this check down?
yeah.
Well, his check down is covered. So he's stepped into the pocket. You know, I think that's Dallas Turner right there on his back. And it looks like there's no hope for this, and he gets out of the pocket. He steps back, gets out of the pocket, and he gets the ball downfield as he's getting hit on 3rd and 7, trying to make a play. Gotta have it. You need it. 7-17 right now. Get back in the game. And he works the way back to Brock Bowers, and it's just not there. I said he's having to throw crossbody while getting hit. So I mean
Hmm.
that's one of the things I talked about earlier. It's not necessarily that he had bad throws or anything. He was just trying to do a little too much. Right there, you kind of say it's 3rd and 7. Let's just take the field goal. Don't risk an interception here. Just get rid of it. But with how it's going, he's trying to win the game. I mean, he really is. And I mean, at some point that's fine. But you'll see right here, Brock comes inside like we was talking about, flooding that side of the field, and then he sees that his quarterback's in trouble. He cuts out, and I mean, there's just nothing you can really do there.
Roll that one back because I just
Are
got
you
like I
gonna
guess a
say he's
curiosity.
the end
No,
zone?
just no. Just take it back with Bowers. Here's
No.
what I don't really understand about this. Hey, right there. Why does he not? Is this what I don't get here? I don't know what they're looking for precisely. I guess that's
Oh.
my question. Because if you imagine this, so they need to get to the 9. That's what it looks like. Well, I see that the orange pylon over here, just
Yeah.
above the between the CBS I and the C. That's about where they need to be for that first down. So roll this back, and it's one of those riddle me this. Why? So go ahead and play it. Right any time up to there. I wonder why he doesn't just settle there on a hitch, or why he doesn't make his break because it looks like he's wanting to run. He's probably going to run some kind of a dig and
Yeah.
come down the 5. I don't. I mean, that's one that kind of baffles me. I don't understand that. Um, I mean, I don't know because I mean, I don't know if that's play design, if if that's if that's on the receiver. Because I mean, with Bowers, because I mean, like I said, I mean, I just don't. I mean, he didn't look himself, and he hadn't looked himself all year, since being hurt. But to me, when you need it, why in the world do you not have a guy like that dead in the middle on the sticks? Because that's the thing that's interesting about it all. I mean, look at where your receivers are. Bowers has 2 on
They're
him. Who is
all
this over here?
I was say
Who is
they're
this
all
over here to go? There's 2 on him,
yeah.
and the underneath men that are in single coverage. he's definitely not at the stick, and he's going to probably have to come back and catch a ball outside. He's not really at the stick. So I don't know what it is you're looking for right here because you're not giving the quarterback. And I know maybe this is shifting, into more of like, more of like a play design gripe than it is talking about Carson Beck. But I mean, to tell you the truth, if I have a quarterback who's faced with that, who can get out of this mess and at least throw a competitive ball that doesn't get picked off right here, you got to give him some credit because this is not putting him in the position to make the thing happen that needed to happen. And what the thing was get a doggone first down. And you, there's no, there's no explanation for that. Why that he doesn't, why there's not something there to put him at the stick. Don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. Couldn't
One of
tell
those
you.
mysteries, I guess.
So, but here's a really good ball to Dylan Bill. I know this is one that you pointed out when we was watching it actually.
Yeah,
Um, just being able to throw that inside and I mean right on his body. It's I mean it kind of looks like it's behind, but it's really not. It's going right into his chest.
into his
Uh,
chest. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean that's kind of where you want it there, especially with how close and physical their DBs are playing. So you're not going to get any
Well,
flags. It's 3rd and 3, so you got to have it right here, and you know I think
and
it's a smart ball, good catch.
and the thing too, I mean, it's something that I mentioned when we were talking earlier about it. That I think that's something that really that this is a good spot to talk about it that could go unnoticed. It maybe there's somebody out there. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I'm not one who memorizes everybody's stats. But if you know of a better third down quarterback than Carson Beck, make mention of him because we'd like to take a look at him. Beck is unbelievable. I mean, if you look at his just like go to ESPN, look at their splits. I'm just going to read off his numbers. 3rd and 1 and 2, he's 5 of 7, 74 yards, 71%. 3rd and 3 to 7, he's 58% on 50 attempts. I mean, that's you can say a lot about just a handful of plays. 50 attempts, 58%, nearly 60. 3rd and 8 and 10, he's at 13 plays. He's 12 of 13 on 3rd and 8 to 10, 92.3%. That's something else. And then 3rd and 11 plus 11 of 19, which is 58. Now he did throw a pick right there. He's got a few third down picks, but these completion percentages are just astronomical. Whatever split you're at, he ranges any place between 58, if one's 57.9, I guess if you wanted to be picky, but from 58% to 92% on a lot of attempts. That's some doggone good play. And as we've seen there on that one previous that there are plenty of these attempts that he has that they ain't a soul in the world helping him out on play calling. And so when you think that you got a guy who is making up for just some really bad decisions with the allocation of receivers on third down, but he's still that productive. And I mean, and I would like to go back. I mean, that's even one of those things that I guess just out of sheer curiosity, um, I would like to see those interceptions because I almost bet you that those interceptions were in moments kind of like the
Having to make a
previous
play,
play
like you
where
said,
he's
they're
having to
third.
absolutely force it. And he's like, and because that's the thing I think is interesting that that you could really make an argument for him is he strikes me as like an introverted winner. Like he's not the guy who is like out, like I say, like rah screaming, cussing somebody like a dog out there on the field. But he is trying like all heck to win a game. And his thing here is he realizes it's on me. I've got to make something happen. And he tried to make something happen on that last play. And so I wonder how many of those interceptions that he throws, because that's just 3 of 6 interceptions and they happen on third down. I wonder how many of them that he's like, well, crap, there ain't nothing here. Here's the best chance we had to make something happen. There it goes. I don't know. But he's not got a lot working with him. I can tell him that. I mean, I feel for him like on that last play.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's Duke's clutch. He's a fine quarterback.
Yeah, and he's really poised. He always keeps his composure no matter what. It's that next step or next play mentality, one play at a time. This Kirby drills into him. So I mean, this is one thing that I put it in here because I know people's gonna point it out because we're watching this film. And it's like I know it looks like he's just flimsy with the ball. He don't care about ball security or anything right here. Well, we're gonna go right here and we're gonna look at it how it's supposed to be. So, he's trying to give that action because we always talk about his action. He can run, do a
Mhm.
read keep, whatever, hold them ends and you get this, and he's trying to look like he's even carrying on a QB power. Maybe the running backs got it. I think he's actually trying to make it look like the running backs got it, and he doesn't have it, and it's not going behind them. And
Mhm.
he's trying to play so hard into the fake. That's he's not even looking. That's more on the running back than it is him in anything. Or technically, I guess that's a wide receiver. But I mean, that's more on the guy trying to get the ball than it is on Carson Beck. Just
But
being
with
honest.
that, I mean, look at the receiver's face mask.
No, he's not even looking at the ball.
Well, he
No.
ain't looking at that ball. And so, I mean, I think he's probably checking out the backside to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I was say he's
And
looking
it's
at
just,
that corner over there. That's what he's looking
you
at.
got to look them in, man. I'm telling you. And the thing is that if he makes this, I mean, they've got a shot at the play right here. You've got both of those. Both of your the last two men on the offensive line. I mean, they've got their guys sealed in dead to rights. Now, it looks like the one here, the second man in, he might have a shot to break off that block, but 71's going to pick him up, and 4 should be able to come out here and affect that cornerback. Uh, that's going to pick up some yards,
So
but
yeah,
alas,
I think it's a good play call. It's just not good
yeah, it is.
execution. But I mean, I don't think that's Beck's fault. Look that ball in.
Yeah,
Uh, so I
that's
mean,
a risk you take on plays like that.
I said, you're looking for a moment. You need something to happen.
That receiver's not used to doing that. No matter how much you may drill that, he's not. That's not his typical job.
Say, moving on though from that, you'll see Carson Beck go again, making a play with his feet, and um, I'm gonna be honest. I think he probably could have made a pass here. I think he gets a little skittish. This is one of those times that he doesn't really read too much. So I kind of feel like he feels that pressure a little bit fast. I mean, I know he sees them. I mean, hauling off the end. That's why he kind of ducks inside to the left. And the ball that you're wanting to throw would either be right here at this moment or right here. And I mean, technically you could throw it to Brock right here, but you really got to wait on that linebacker to see what he's going to do, and that's where he's
Yeah, you do.
looking ultimately. And that's that running back's your check down. So I mean, you ain't looking there till like you have to. So I mean, he's kind of reading that linebacker, seeing if he's going to come down on that drag or go with Brock Bowers, and he doesn't really have enough time to do so until he has to step up. So he steps up, and by the time he does that, that linebacker sees that he's dropping down, so that drag's going to be cut off, and Brock's going to get covered by this safety, and you're going to have Delp right here running to the like a corner route, and you have your check down. It's just all the way across the other side of the field. So I mean, he's not turning his body at that point to do that. Now, I think the ball right here, you look at this safety, I think the ball right here probably needs to go to Dell. I think this is one he missed, but at the same time, make a play happen with your feet. I know he can do it. So I mean, I trust him. But I mean that play is obviously there to Delp right here on the sideline, and it gets you really close, if not
Mhm.
a first down. So I mean, I think that's ultimately where he probably should have went. But at the same time, I don't know if he trusted his receivers to be open. So you see him just tuck it early and take off and run into the backside of his lineman. say see him stepping back, and this is uh this is what I talk about with him throwing over the middle. He can fit in them really tight windows really good. And, you know, he doesn't really lift the ball that high up off the ground. So I don't know if y'all can see it, but the ball is like right here. Or wait, no, I think is it in his hands at that point?
I think it's in his hands.
That's a fastball. That is a
Yeah, it
fastball.
is. Yeah, I think
Daggone.
the other's a white speck. I mean, that ball's already on him.
So yeah,
Yeah,
well,
roll that back and watch it. I mean, I promise you that thing gets there quickly.
going back to it though, you see it absolutely drilled right in that receiver's chest across the middle. You know, you got a safety over top. And I think that's even a safety beneath. I think that's Caleb Downs below him. But then you see
Mhm.
that ball right on his chest. Technically, it's probably like his neck, but I mean, that's a good ball. Um, and a catchable ball, very easily catchable. Just hang on to it, especially for the first down on the goal line. So he just throws over the middle really well, and you know he can read that, and you know like you was talking about earlier with them windows, windows that don't look open are open for him because he's just one of those elite quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So then that does a lot for you.
Well, I think that like with that thing that you see about him, the more that you watch him, because I mean, I think that there's that's the thing I think is weirdly true about a lot of college football is I think that a lot of times like we're victims of where we're at. Like geography matters so much in college football and our perception of it. Uh, I would say that there's some people that haven't watched him play that much. That's just like the thing that I'm always really just puzzled by is how many people in the South were just dead against Michigan. You see the same thing I think happen in other places. There might be people who are just not as aware of how good Beck is. I mean, I think everybody knows, or everybody follows college ball knows, he's quarterback at Georgia. But I mean, the skill set that he's got is something else. The awareness he's got is something else. And the thing that I think really sets him apart is he trusts his ability. I mean, he has confidence in what he can do. And that's the thing that I think that sets him apart from a lot of people because, like you mentioned, I mean, a lot of these receivers that he's throwing to, I mean, these are not household names. And and like what you'd mentioned whenever he throws, to like probably I guess what is his I can't even remember the dude's name, uh,
Vlad,
but no, not the big names. I mean everybody knows those
Dylan
guys.
Bell,
No, the one below him.
Marcus Rosemy Jackson.
That's it. The one who has like sounds like a law firm.
Yeah,
Um, I
sounds
don't. I
like a
mean,
law firm.
I'm just going. Well, he does. I mean, like you got like four names you're running around with out there, but I wouldn't throw a choice route amidst three Alabama defenders to that dude if it were me. I'm just going to go ahead and be honest, and that's no disrespect to him, but by God, Beck does. he threw that thing on a rope to him, and so I'm like, God, man, if you is like I'm gonna have to trust you. I definitely trust me. So just open up your hands and catch it. And he puts it on him so hard that that's about all that he can do is catch that ball right there. He trusted him to do it, and I think that whenever you have a quarterback who processes the field this well, who trusts his own ability that well, I think it elevates the people around him. And these guys, he's got a chance to come back with some boys that have put in some, good work with him. They might be missing, their big names, but I honestly think that, I mean, Beck is the kind of guy who's going to elevate some of these younger guys and some of these lesser known guys because he is flat out good.
Yeah, you know
Maybe he can get
I am.
hold of the play
I'm
design.
Yeah, maybe. So I'm a big Marcus fan. I got to. That's whose Super Bowl or whose championship rings I got to wear. So
That's
I mean,
right.
I'm a big Marcus fan. But I mean, yeah. Speaking of that window, though, I mean, you can see the strap on his helmet pointed right at the spot he
Right
wants
at
to
it.
throw it at. And, you know, you see that safety just hovering over top with Lad breaking inside. I mean, you got to have a lot of faith right there. And I mean, I know Lad's one of his top targets and most consistent ones, but either way, like that's a tight window to trust your ability and your receiver's ability, and that only gets even tighter as you know you go on watching it. So I mean, props to him, especially throwing over a guy as well. The tush push did come out multiple times in this game. We'd always love to mention that, um, especially with our Philadelphia Bulldogs. But you see again, that consistent theme of throwing right over the middle, them digs, post, whatever crossers, whatever it's going to be over the middle. He's very good at processing it and seeing it through. I mean, this ball looks like it's going to hit that referee, but I mean that's the absolute spot you need to throw it to, no matter what. So I mean, to just trust your arm that good. So it's something special. 'Cause I mean, I know the referee ain't gonna pick off the ball or anything, but I mean, he is standing in your way. Said he is
Yeah.
in the way of that of throw, and you can't even see that safety over top of that referee really. So I mean, you're putting a lot of faith in this guy and your arm right here to get this ball to him really fast.
Well, one of the things I think that you see with this is you often hear, like, I guess, in the kind of like, in the wake of, spread offenses and air raid, type offenses, you hear so many people talk about, um, similarities between the passing game and basketball. Like, I mean, and you hear that a lot. There's always, people talk about, basketball on grass, whatever that means. I mean, I understand what they're saying, but, but the thing that I think that whenever you look at a play like this with Beck, I think baseball more than I think basketball, because what he is this is like the equivalent of a guy on a baseball field who knows where the ball needs to go. And that's something I think it's a real gift if you know where to put the ball in the situation. And that's one of the things I think has to be said about him. He knows where the football, not just which receiver it needs to go to, he knows where to locate the ball, like on this one. And like with that referee, if you're standing there, and you get clubbed in the head, that's your problem because you were where the ball needed to go, and that's where he put it. So I mean, there's a real, like, I guess almost like, robotic calculation right here. Like, this is where it must be, and that's where it goes. And that's, I mean, that's one of those things. That's not a, you wonder sometimes of quarterbacks, that, like, I mean, I've seen them, and I mean, and I won't mention who he is, but I mean, it was an SEC starter for a minute. And I thought, there's no way this guy's going to amount to anything, because he was made by great receivers. And everything you did is like, hey, throw it to this great receiver, flat down the line, he'll make something happen. And he reaped a lot of benefits from players other than himself. But when you look at Beck, he's the source. I mean, he's the guy who's making a lot of this happen with just knowing where to put the ball, knowing who's going to be open, knowing how to process the field, knowing how to, like, navigate himself through plays that might not give him what he wants. And when you have something like that, I mean, watch out, because I mean that this guy can play. I mean, it's amazing to watch him, honestly.
Yeah, and ever since Kirby's been there, that's one of the things. You have to be an elite processor to start at Georgia. That's why Justin Fields never started over Jake Fromm, and that's why Stetson Bennett started over people like Carson Beck last year. Just the ability to process things and make the right throw, where it needs to go. But I mean, speaking on them baseball terms, Carson is like he's on third base hosing someone out at first. I mean, it's really impressive how he can just get the ball to places so fast the way he does that. So all of these came in the fourth. When they needed to score, they was going hurry up. I think the last play was as well. Them just strikes over the middle of the field. So they did a really good job in their hurry up at the end of the game to get some points to make this game winnable
Yeah.
at the last second. And another one of them strikes over the middle. So that is still tight coverage, as tight as it's been all
Yeah.
game. And I mean, you just see that ball. It's like I just said, it's like he's hosing someone out from third to first. I mean, it's a fast ball, and it's got to get there on point. And to your guy Brock Bowers, and he comes down with it. So I mean, it's a lot to be said about it. Now I did
Well,
want to throw. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say on that one, but if you're just going to be, downright honest about it, by the time that, we see that last play, you're down 10, 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Alabama's running the ball like a son of a gun. So you really don't have a lot of time to mess with. And honestly, the only way that you're going to beat this tight cover, I mean, you're having to throw the ball. I mean, in Alabama knows you have to throw the ball, and that sucks. So the main way you do this is you trust your reads, and then you know that you can absolutely sling it because the faster you throw it, the wider that window is going to be. This is not a wide window at all, man. I mean that is it's narrow and it is closing in quick as that safety gets closer, and you got a doggone good defensive back and downs on him right there, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to win this game, and just hauls off and just fastballs that thing in there because I guess it's one of those, it's almost like one of those if you ain't first, you're last deals because he just hauls off and says, here you go. This is what it's going to take. I mean, we're going to have to zip it in there. Is it dangerous? Yeah, but I think I can make it and I think he can catch it. So, here goes. You got to like that. I mean, you just really got to like that. I don't care if you're a Georgia fan or not. I mean, it's just fun to see somebody like that play.
Yeah, that's a lot of the reason I believe that Puglisi's the next man up over Gunnar Stockton. It's just the way they're similar in their gunslinger
Yeah.
ability to get them hose line outs at third. But I did want to put in some of this Missouri film just because Missouri was a real good team that gave Georgia struggles, and
Mhm.
rightfully so. I mean, they did beat Ohio State in the bowl game mainly because of their defense. Is what I did credit to. Um, so I mean, you looking at it, and one thing that I talked about earlier, you couldn't really see it because I didn't show many of it. Is we know Carson Beck has an ability to run. We saw his play action fakes. He's really good with his motions on that. But it's like he is something you have to look out for when it comes to them read options. Because, I mean, you see both of these linebackers take that step inside. And, you got to be honest with it because, Carson Beck can run the ball. So, I mean, you have to keep it honest. And, that allows for a big influential touchdown in this Missouri game. And I know it's not really Carson Beck doing anything but, going through emotion, but I mean, that's ultimately what got Milton to break this rung and spring it
Mhm.
with being touched by only one guy instead of having both of them linebackers come down on him. And I think that's just one thing that you can say about it. Said, and
Yeah,
even
you got to
so,
respect it.
yeah, I said he comes out here and he knows the moments he has to win. So it's just like this one. It's like we talked about him throwing across the middle, having to make a play when he needs to. It's like, you know, that Missouri game is a close game. It's one they barely escaped, and I mean, they pretty much controlled it, but at the same time, you had to make these big plays to win it, and you just got this one to Lad here across the middle, and I mean that's a great ball, right under that safety. I mean, I know Lad had to jump to catch it, but I mean it's a great ball where only Lad can get that, and even if he doesn't catch it, nobody else is, and
Mhm.
it's a good ball for the coverage that they was giving them as well, because I mean their DBs weren't any slumps or average Joes, them janitors that people like to think that they're used to play. And to even further down on the throwing across the middle statement, in order to put that drive away and score, he gets a good rocket into Delp. That's a low throw. You don't see much of, and you might think, well, that's a bad ball. Well, I mean, Delp's on the
No, it's
ground
not.
already, so I mean that's a perfect throw because I mean you see that flag on the ground. I mean Delp was pretty much pushed down and tackled at that point. So I mean the only place he's able to catch that is on the ground where he's fallen into. So, I mean, and it hits him right on the chest as well. So, I mean, the ball placement on this guy, his processing ability. So, there's not much to dislike about Carson Beck. So, I know most people just don't think he has any swagger, and he's just not as out there as, Stetson Bennett was per se. Because I mean, this guy's honestly like sitting in church listening to a monotone preacher with the way he goes through with his actions. So he's just always poised, always on the same level, never too high, never too big, just one play at a time type of guy. And that's how he just always is. And I mean, there's something to be said about it because he'll always be able to lead a team like that and keep them to the level that they need to be every play. And move on from plays like interceptions or fumbles and always to keep you in a game.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this overall, the way that he approaches it, and that's what I also think too. Just, I mean, the way he looks. I mean, he doesn't. to me, he doesn't look as big as what he actually measures. I don't know why I think that because I guess it's weird. You think that about people. He just doesn't look like that. He's as big a guy as what he is, but he is. And the other thing too that always stands out to me is like the dude has the hairstyle of like it looks like a classical composer. I mean, he
He just
does not
looks
look like a
goofy.
guy.
He looks
He doesn't look
goofy.
like a guy that you would expect to be like a, elite quarterback. But the thing that
Yeah.
you see with him, it reminds me so much of like what we had said when we looked at Will Johnson from Michigan the other day. These guys, see, that's the thing I think that separates folks like that from a lot of other people. Is it's very easy to think about just somebody having just stupendous athletic ability and and that's interesting. These guys have watched the game so much that it's down to a science. I mean, they know what's going to happen. And when you know it on that level, see, that's the thing I would want to tell, just players at every level. Being great is not about being the best athlete on the field. Being great is about knowing what's going to happen on the field. When you know a defense's tendencies, or whenever in Johnson's case, whenever you know what a receiver, who's as good as Marvin Harrison Jr., you know what he's going to do, and you just absolutely pick one off in front of him. Um, that comes from absolutely studying scenarios and studying what opponents are going to do. And they're just a different kind of player. And so, I mean, I'm always, when I'm going to pull, for that, more intellectual type guy, because that's what I think makes a guy like Beck as good as he is. And I think that that's what's going to have him as one of the last men standing for the Heisman race. He's going to make something happen. And if Georgia can help him, to make that happen, I think that it could be a really, really good year for him. So, you know, I think sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, so a lot of upside, Heisman candidate in my opinion. I don't know if he'll win it, but I know that there's a lot of opportunity to win it, especially with how loaded the schedule is for Georgia.
Yeah,
So I mean, a lot of good looks for him this year, and even if you don't think he's that great of a quarterback, and Alabama's whatever you may feel about it, you'll get to see him play against a lot of really good teams this year, and you'll be able to figure it out for yourself if he's a really good quarterback. If you can't already do that by watching this video and watching him play all year.
yeah.
Um, with that being said, though, keep blocking. Give us some feedback. What do you think about Carson Beck? Who do you think's going to win the Heisman? Talk to us. We always love to respond and talk to y'all back. But for us here, stay locked in, everyone.